Now, for myself, because I was next on the list, I just wanted to say a few things clarifying some comments that were made last week. And what I wanted to start out saying is that senators make the rules, and the rules here are clear. A significant portion of Senator Dasko's poll questions, in my view, clearly violated that particular Senate administrative rule. It is okay to be partisan, and it's okay to be political. It's a political institution, after all, as long as the activity falls within the bounds of the Senate rules. And according to this particular rule in sub B, parliamentary functions, which is what Senator Dasko indicated this was, does not include, quote, supporting or opposing a political party or individual candidate in the context of a federal, provincial, territorial, or municipal election. And that's the end of that quote. Again, I emphasize in the context of an election. It is not required for, in that particular rule, for an expense to be disallowed if the activity occurs during an election. It does not have to occur during an election. It could occur during an election, then it would be disallowed. It would also be disallowed if it was to occur in the context of an election. And I wanted to bring that point up because at least 2 independent senators group senators have said that particular quote about during the election, but it's more expansive than that. And that, the part about during the election, is actually a different subsection of what is not allowed. That is also not allowed. Then as well, it's important to note that what our committee members have received from Senate administration here was not a formal legal opinion. It's a short briefing note, which we receive on many occasions. There's a small portion that deals with legalities on this issue. And I also wanted to point out, because a few times these parts were quoted in argument on this, there are some errors contained in the briefing note, which I did previously point out at our CIBA steering committee and which weren't corrected. So some of those errors include how Senate administration referenced how polls are conducted, and that displays that there is some misunderstanding about how polls are conducted. For example, public opinion polls are not conducted by, quote, papers being handed out at a political event. I've personally never seen that, and I've been at many, many political events in my life. As well, this particular poll was meant to be conducted on a national basis, not in an individual senatorial area. So the briefing note also does not fully canvass the political and election-related issue here. It does not state that this was a 2015 Liberal election platform promise, and it does not state that the leader of the Independent Senators Group, Senator Wu, did media 3 months prior to this poll being conducted, calling for this particular issue to be an election issue in the 2019 election. But all that being said, the main point here is that it's the responsibility of the senator claiming the expense to ensure that the expense is properly conducted and done within Senate rules. And here, Senator Dasko did certify, as Senate finance people have indicated, that her poll properly fell within the scope of parliamentary functions. And even though she would have known that 2 of those poll questions violated that section of the Senate rules. And I've also pointed out this distinction previously with the Senator McCoy polls that were done where that properly straddled the Senate rules. So that particular section of her poll questions was the major component of the poll and not just the sidebar. She was seeking to, the poll is seeking to justify the independent Senate promise and model and its implementation. And even though some of the poll sub-questions within that part have actually objectively been shown not to be correct on a few occasions. So the Senate rules are clear. We have worked very hard for several years in the Senate to close expense loopholes and to repair the Senate's reputation on expenses after a lengthy and painful Auditor General's report. And I submit that allowing this expense, which clearly violates this particular rule, would set a terrible precedent and take us down a dark road we don't want to return to. Thank you.
Senator, the points again and again, the same points keep coming up. So Senator Batters.
Just a couple of quick points on this, because I thought I had responded pretty clearly before as to how this rule is extremely clear as it exists, and context of the election includes not only a time period situation, but also the subject matter, and how this particular, these poll questions dealt with both 2015 questions and 2019 questions at a time frame that was 6 months before the election. But I wanted to make a couple of points. First of all, I thought that the questions posed by Senator Frum about a proposed poll were completely within the scope of those here at the table, particularly because they're very aware at this exact moment as to what the subject matter is and exactly what we're trying to determine here. But I just want to bring this back to one key thing. is the core part of the senator's responsibility is signing that form that they submit to Senate Finance. That's why we put such a priority on that. And it's Senator Dasko's responsibility to certify. That's what Senate Finance and people in the office rely on. She is certifying by signing that the expense conforms to the Senate rules and to the definition of parliamentary functions. They didn't know that it didn't conform to the definition. She should have. And also, we're dealing with a senator here who she has said she's a very experienced pollster. This was her job prior to coming to the Senate. So composing poll questions is something she's extremely aware of, and she should have been aware or that it did not conform to the Senate rules. Thank you.
Amendments, if I may. I move that the committee authorize the Senate administration to pay the expense for the poll commissioned by Senator Dasko, notwithstanding the lack of consensus on this issue, as it was conducted in the conformity with the Senate administrative rules and the Senator's office management policy. However, it is recognized that the committee is of the view that the rules should be subsequently reviewed. Is that okay, Senators?
It's okay by me.
Close enough. Fair point.
Let's have a recorded vote. This is on the proposed. You want us to type this and circulate it, or are we happy with the way I read it out? Okay.
Honorable Senator, I will call the member's name beginning with the chair and then going in alphabetic order. Senators should verbally indicate whether they vote for, against, or abstain. Honorable Senator Marwa.
For.
Honorable Senator Batters.
Against.
Honorable Senator Dalphon.
For.
Honorable Senator Dawson. Honorable Senator Dean. Honorable Senator Frum. Honorable Senator Martin. No. Honorable Senator Marshall. Honorable Sénatrice Moncion. Honorable Senator Munson. Honorable Senator Omnivar. Honorable Sénatrice Saint-Germain. Honorable Senator Tanis.
For.
Honorable Senator Tekachuk. Honorable Sénatrice Werner.
So the thing is 10 for, 5 against. So I think the revised motion is passed. So let's move on to the next item. Senator Dean, you had a